Firstly, thanks for everybody to be here. I welcome all the speakers. But before my introduction, I would like to start by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land on which we gather today and pay my respects to their elders, past and present. I extend that respect to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people here today. Please let me thank also the French-Australian Chamber of Commerce for the organization and the French Embassy, Austrade, and sponsors for their support throughout. It's a great privilege to be here and to act as a moderator for this roundtable, given my role on the future submarine program, FSP, of which I have some knowledge. I am Major General Yannick Caillez, FSP Special Advisor for the French Ambassador, and I come from Direction Générale de l'Armement, DGA, the French Government Defense Procurement Agency. Because FSP is far broader than an armament program, DGA decided to post somebody here in Australia after DCNS, now Naval Group, had been selected on the program. The aim of this program is not only to provide Australia with a regionally superior operational capability, but also to support Australia to develop its sovereign industrial capability on submarines. FSP is more than an armament program. Actually, it's mainly a strategic partnership between France and Australia, a key partnering which contributes to transforming Australian cities and developing their attractiveness and the willingness of populations to move to these cities. What could FSP bring to Australia? How has it transformed, and how will it continue to transform Australia and its cities, including Adelaide and Port Adelaide? To that end, I am very happy to invite Mayor Claire Bowen, Mayor Port Adelaide Enfield, John Davis, Chief Executive Officer of Naval Group Australia, Gareth O'Reilly, Zone President and Managing Director, Pacific Schneider Electric, and Richard Price, Chief Executive of Defence South Australia. Before the speakers introduce themselves, I emphasize for the people who are watching the video that a live 15-minute Q&A will follow the conference. You can find a chat Q&A on the side of the video for that purpose. Now, dear guests, could you please introduce yourself? Please, Mayor Bowen.
Hello everybody, I am Claire Bowen, the Mayor of the City of Port Adelaide Enfield. I've been in this role for 2 years, and for the majority of this time we have been working really closely with the defence industry in ways that we can really help work alongside. So the $90 billion which has been announced by the federal government is right here in the home of Port Adelaide Enfield. So we're really excited to the commitment that the federal government's placed in this site, working closely for the future shipbuilding and submarine building in this area.
Thank you. John, the floor is yours.
Thank you. I'm John Davis. I'm very privileged to be the Chief Executive Officer for Naval Group Australia. The design of these boats will be underpinned by over 100 years of French design capability. They'll be equipped with Australian equipment and systems, and they're going to be built here in South Australia. In this regard, they're going to provide a bedrock of benefits that will continue in South Australia for over 50 years. Personally, I've seen firsthand that the benefits of submarine programs into local economies from my time in the UK, and of course, with my connections now with Cherbourg. The realisation of these benefits has already started, and indeed, we are starting the process of transforming the activity in South Australia. Port Adelaide is physically being transformed. We've opened a new office in Port Adelaide, which already has over 150 of the top talent in South Australia supporting the program. That number is going to continue to grow over the next decade. In addition to that, we have the construction site for the submarine build yard happening on the island at Port Adelaide. That's a significant development and a large investment by the Commonwealth of Australia to the build of the submarines. Already that's employing a number of civil work contractors, and ultimately it will engage over 2,500 employees in that yard. Delivery of the submarines into South Australia is going to be a truly national endeavour, however, which will embrace industry, government at both federal and state level, educators, and most importantly, qualified and experienced people from around the world. Together, these will form a new ecosystem in Australia, which is going to endure for decades to come. So I'm very privileged to be here representing Naval Group Australia.
Thank you, John. Gareth, please.
Thank you, Yannick. Well, Schneider, I'm very honoured to be the president for our operations here in Australia. Now, Schneider's focused on energy and digital. We believe both of those are, in today's world, basic human rights. And we combine those technologies of energy and digital in our homes, buildings, infrastructure, and industries such as marine, which support resilience, efficiency, and sustainability. And we're very honoured to be a part of the programme that John leads in developing Australia's sovereign capability. We have a particularly strong connection to South Australia. We've been in Australia for a long time, but through our Clipsal brand, we celebrate 100 years, so a very close link to the 100 years that John has mentioned, of innovating and creating livelihood and industrial capability in South Australia, in Adelaide. I'm pleased to be here today.
Thank you, guys. And then Richard.
It's a great pleasure to be with you all today. I head up an agency for the South Australian Government that's responsible for economic development in the space and defence sectors. The opportunity, you will hear a lot about shipbuilding today, so let me broaden the conversation. Projects such as this submarine program create enduring relationships. We've heard it's 50 years of activity on that program alone, and they become important. They are of national importance both to Australia and to France. And that gathers a tremendous amount of the leadership of those countries in regular dialogue. Out of those relationships come many more business opportunities. So for our two countries, the opportunity to broaden into other business relationships is unlimited. You know, if I look at my own area in space, French companies are engaging much more in the space sector off the back of the relationship that's building over the submarine program. So these are transformational projects. They come very, very rarely, once every 50 years, literally. And if you don't grasp the opportunity now, then, you know, there will never be a better time.
Thank you, Richard. So now I suggest that we could start the roundtable. And as the subject is how FSP transform our cities, and especially Adelaide and Port Adelaide, because all the submarines are going to be built here in Port Adelaide. I would like to give you the floor first, Mayor Bowen. Perhaps you could explain how you see this fabulous opportunity in the environment of South Australia. What is your feeling and what are your expectations?
Yeah, absolutely, Yannick. We have 97 square kilometres of council area, one of the largest councils in South Australia, and there's already been a tremendous excitement around the submarine building and the shipbuilding in our area. We have a great mix of residential and industry within our council, and this certainly adds to the diversity of what we can offer, and there's great excitement across the community as well as industry. We've seen already some massive business growth, and of course over the last year has been some really difficult times, but we're seeing so many people coming in and seeing opportunity. As Richard spoke about, the business opportunities that will be brought not only from Naval Group but the other chain supply businesses to our region are hugely significant, not only for our region but also for South Australia and Australia. So being the gateway of this economic driver, we're finding some really terrific opportunities with the smaller businesses as well, coming in and seeing the growth opportunities, but also the different mindsets in terms of the ways that they approach business sense. We're here, of course, to look at ways that we can support those businesses who are wanting to come in and make a home in Port Adelaide and our wider region. We are seeing some really great ways that we can help this change occur in our region. Working alongside Naval Group and welcoming them into Port Adelaide has been a really significant move for us. And it's also been a significant opportunity of excitement and seeing the future in a positive way, seeing Naval Group come into this space. So we're welcoming them wholeheartedly, along with the other projects which are coming into our region. The submarine construction program also will generate a huge amount of employment, training opportunities. Some of our smaller businesses who are already set up are finding ways that they can adopt some traineeships and learning opportunities on site. They're seeing ways that they can be part of this growth. So the region is certainly excited. We're seeing some great opportunities already over the last couple of years, and now looking forward into the many years forward into our future. We know that there's some really great opportunities ahead of us. So we welcome this announcement, as well as the many other smaller businesses who are seeing this great opportunity ahead of us.
Thank you, Claire. Then it could be appropriate for you, John, as a Naval Group's representative, to present the FSP program. Of course, you started to do that in your introduction, but perhaps you can explain what could be, with the global presentations, what are the main challenges in the program?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's worth just returning to the objectives, if I may, which you highlighted in the introduction. The Future Submarine Program is to deliver a regionally superior submarine to Australia and to provide the Commonwealth with enduring sovereign control over the operation and sustainment of Australia's future submarine capability. That there is a very critical message in terms of the technologies that the submarine will bring into Australia. It also has the second objective to maximise Australian industry involvement throughout all phases of the program without unduly compromising capability, cost or schedule. And that's a very strong message that this is about creating a sovereign capability within our industrial ecosystem here in Australia. So collectively, we have a wonderful opportunity, as Richard was describing, once in 50 years, probably indeed even longer than that, to have technology coming together with a firm commitment to invest in Australian industry. Now, of course, that's all very positive. There are some challenges there. In particular, the ability for Australia to provide the workforce to support this program, as well as the other shipbuilding programs, at the same time where there's large investment in adjacent markets, such as the minerals market, and of course, the post-COVID investment in activities like infrastructure. Now, in order to realise that workforce capability, we need to come together as a nation to grow that workforce. And that will require a much stronger focus on STEM through the education system, industry working collaboratively with the education system, industry working collaboratively with itself across the primes in particular, but also industry working more collaboratively with the Commonwealth at federal and state level. Now, I have to say that the wonderful thing about what we're seeing already under the National Shipbuilding Plan is that the green shoots of collaboration are absolutely there. There is a different mindset which is in Australia right now, and that's a fantastic starting place. And from these green shoots, we will grow this in capability for the nation.
Thank you, John. Richard, as you have heard, John raised some challenges regarding FSP, and especially as far as are concerned the workforces. We can easily understand that transformation needs resources and skills. And as John said, I must emphasize that Adelaide is not interested only on the future submarine program, but also with all naval programs in defense. What are your insights in this regard? What could you propose?
So from our perspective, we've got three important areas to work. One is on attraction of people into defence industry broadly, and I'll come back to that. The second is education, which John spoke about, and the third area is skilling. So if we talk about attraction first, we still have to work very hard to get the Australian population to understand that working in defence industry does not require you to have worked in the Defence Force. Our research has shown that a lot of people still don't understand that it's not a job in uniform. And when they hear about these jobs, a lot of people still assume you need to have a uniform. So we are running a lot of campaigns now to get that message out. And that's a national need. It's not just a state need. To support that, there is a specific campaign run through social media called Find Your Place, which is having a great take-up amongst our target audience of 16 to 25-year-olds. And that is being aimed specifically at educating people that not all of the jobs require you to be a welder, to work in the shipyard or the submarine yard. There are plenty of jobs for a wide range of capabilities. Space is another really important part of our attraction campaign because space sells. I'm sorry to say, submarine is a bit of a harder sell to young people than space. So unashamedly, we use space to try and keep as many kids as possible interested in science and technology. And then later on, they can make their decisions as to where they want their careers to go. So that's the attraction piece. We're also working on attraction for experienced engineers. So some of the visa programs that we have in place under Designated Area Migration Agreement are specifically targeted at bringing in those experienced people with niche skills that we need to top up. Why do we need to do that? Well, we have never run two programs in parallel of this size. When we built the air warfare destroyers, the Collins class submarine was built and was in a sustainment period. Now we are building two large programs, and they, quite frankly, as John has said, there aren't enough experienced people today to go around. When you come to education, right, education is all about vocational and university training. As a state government, we fund the vocational sector. Through the Naval Shipbuilding College, we are working with the primes to develop specific courses targeted at the skill sets that industry needs. And with our universities, we're also working to increase the cohort of engineers and science graduates. And the good thing about this state is all three universities understand the importance of the defence sector. They all have strategies to support the defence sector, and they are all customising their curriculum to be more responsive to industry's needs, and also to move into micro-credentialing to maintain skills throughout the career journey. And the final piece then is skilling, and that is looking at the opportunities to cross-skill people from other sectors, to cross-skill people who have been returning to work, veterans who are coming out of the defence forces into the civilian sector, the Indigenous communities. So specialised skilling programs to top up people who've got great life experience already, but bring those skills of relevance they need for the naval shipbuilding sector. So that is the suite of things that we as a state government are either directly responsible for or working with our partners to deliver.
Thank you, Richard. Then I have a question to Gareth. Gareth, as we can imagine, industrial cooperation will be a key point for the success of this program, and not only of the installation of Naval Group Australia, but also the relations at all levels, supply chain, equipment, and so on. And in order to establish an industrial capability here in Australia and in Adelaide. Guys, what is your point of view as a main supplier on future submarine program?
Thank you, Yannick, and it's a great question. I guess if I reflect on a couple of points, we've been manufacturing in Australia for a very long time, in fact, 100 years, as I mentioned earlier on. And that capability has evolved over the decades. The skills we've needed have evolved. We find that Australia is a great place to bring talent to. People are attracted. You need to seed capability and experience to develop your competency and capabilities. The second point is that you need to develop your industrial base. So be very focused on development of your supply base, be working with them, invest with them to get their capabilities to where you want them to be, because we view that they have to operate on a global scale to be competitive here. So therefore we set the bar high, but we also enable them to be successful. And we've been successful in that. And what comes of that is once you develop capability in your supply base, your suppliers, your engineers, your technicians, and the organization around them, is they start to develop capability on the global stage to export. So our experience has been is those capabilities, whether it be innovation capabilities, supply chain capabilities, technical capabilities, and industrial capabilities, then become something that creates something bigger than where you started. And that's been our experience. It also needs to evolve to stay ahead of the game. We believe that digital capabilities are the trades of the future, no matter what you do. Whether you're a welder or an engineer or a data scientist, in some form, you're going to be touched by what the skills of tomorrow need to be. I think also that a submarine is an incredibly complex machine. And it requires moving a complex ecosystem, John will know this much more than I, from one part of the world to the other, means a hell of a lot of collaboration between that supply base and making it happen. So the team that started in one place needs to work where it lands to develop those capabilities. So it's a complex ecosystem you need to move as well. I'm confident in all of that. I think we've seen where you need to look at parallel industries and capabilities as well. Not assume that because it's defense, because it's a submarine, you need to look for someone with that tag. There's lots of parallel capabilities here and parallel industries that we've seen migrate from oil and gas, infrastructure, offshore work and marine work to this space. So I think you need to be creative in where you find the skills.
Okay. Thank you for your point. I think that perhaps another point which could be addressed, especially in the case of the supplier, is the issue of the industrial workload. The establishment of an industrial capability implies reaching an appropriate business model, and the FSP may not be sufficient. Gareth and John, is this the case? And if so, are you able to provide us with some examples and lessons learned from the point of view, first from a supplier and then from a prime?
Thanks, Yannick. Maybe I'll begin, John. So a couple of experiences. We were involved on the original submarine program, and I think we took a lot of lessons from that in terms of what's required to develop and be involved with across several decades in skilling and continue to skill your capabilities to ensure sovereign capability is present. So your workforce planning has to be long range to support that would be my first point. Secondly is you have to invest in where the capabilities may lie today to bring them back. So at the moment we are sending teams from Australia to Cherbourg to work and live in Cherbourg to understand the technology. So when that technology comes back to live in Australia, that we are equipped to be able to manage our partners. The last point I'd make there is we have been transferring technology to this country for decades. And I am very confident in the capability of small to medium-sized enterprises, small businesses that are very capable at adapting our technologies to meet local needs and sustain. So we've got thousands of companies we work with here that do compete on the global stage because of that. Now, the key point to take from that is you need to have a considered technology transfer program. It does mean transfer of people. It does mean a cultural connection as well, because as we've transferred these capabilities over decades, we've brought people from all over the world that have made Australia home and have become connected, and you need to bind them culturally to the purpose and the community that they operate in. And I guess that touches on the sustainable community piece as well.
Thank you, guys. And as far as you are concerned, John, could you add something? What is your point of view, and what could you propose?
Firstly, let me just absolutely echo what Gareth just said. I wholeheartedly agree with that. For Naval Group, the core to this industrial opportunity starts with investment, and you know, I'm very pleased to say that the recognition of that investment need is absolutely present. We have seen in recent months some very significant investments being set out by the federal government in terms of the development of Australian industry. Industry itself is making those investments at prime and at supplier level. I've spoken about the investment which is being made from a Schneider perspective. I think it's also important to note that on the submarine program that there is a commitment to the transfer of technology to Australia and the development of that sovereign capability. So Naval Group itself is invested in that investment process. And indeed, only early this month, we announced a $900 million opportunity for partners to come and work with Naval Group to receive some of that technology and skills transfer to enable them to manufacture components for the submarine, which is a wonderful opportunity. Beyond that, there is also a very active and dynamic interaction now occurring between the Australian manufacturing base and the manufacturing base in Europe. So it's not just the primes who are transferring technology and are supporting that exchange framework. Exactly as Gareth described, the tier 2, tier 3 suppliers are also doing the same. And the consequence of that is that the supply chain has a much broader and more engaging footprint on the international market with very strong relationships. And of course, that's creating new opportunities for Australian industry further afield. So quite a significant change to where we have been.
Okay, thank you, John. And I think I will give the floor to Richard, because I think that Richard with Defense SA has some experience with Europe. Perhaps he could explain that. But more generally, Richard, is Defense SA able to provide some assistance in order to develop industrial capabilities in South Australia? For example, establishment, issue of industrial workload. For instance, if I am a supplier or SME working on the future submarine program, but I am searching for new activities in Australia and perhaps in Adelaide to consolidate my business model, are you able to help me? And if so, what could you offer?
Yeah, so picking up on John's point, the supply chain solution, there's various ways that the supply chain will develop. There will be European companies who want to bring their technology into the supply chain here and who will be looking for partners. There'll be European companies, global companies, looking at establishing their own presence here because they can see that there's a much broader market that they can tap into. And there may be some companies who simply just want to license their technology, although that is less common in something like a submarine program. all of those, whatever model people would want to use as an agency, we can work with them to look more broadly than just their core offering. And to support that, we have established in Lot 14 a defence and space landing pad, where a European, or any defence or space company can actually, who's international and not resident in South Australia already, can come into that office and join a little community. There's about 5 or 6 different businesses in there at any one point in time, all going on the same journey, all looking for how they should establish themselves in the state. And we provide access to services such as real estate, taxation, but importantly, we provide access to the network of SMEs already within South Australia. So it's co-located with a defence teaming centre, which represents all of the SME defence community and a few of the primes already in the state. So that networking, that advice on how to set up an operation here, and that introduction into more business opportunities more broadly, both in South Australia and Australia, is the sort of stuff that we do every day of the week.
Okay, thank you, Richard. My feeling is that the Future Submarine program is a fabulous driver to develop activities in South Australia on the Future Submarine program, of course, but also it could bring also on to develop new opportunities, as you are saying, Richard, as you are saying, all of us. But I will give you the floor, Claire. What do you think about, what is your feeling? You have seen that the point of view of Defence SA, of Naval Group's representatives, and also from Gareth of the main supplier. What do you think about? What is your feeling? What could you say about that?
It's really great to hear from each of these guys. It's such a consistent message that we're all speaking together. We're welcoming, we're here to support. We know our business and we actually really want this to be highly successful, and we know it can if we're all coming in, working together with the French community as well. So this is really exciting for me to hear the consistent messages coming through, and picking up with what Gareth said about this is the support for the people who are already over there. They've been sent over to Cherbourg and coming back, and we're using their skill set. And a really important role of our council and many councils is to actually build community. So a high priority on our list is working alongside Cherbourg and the civic relationship we have, so that we can learn about what is it that these people actually need when they come back to Australia, whether they're already Australian, whether they're French families. How can we support as a community here within the city of Port Adelaide Enfield to help with that community building? So that's one element that we see is really important, to look after the individuals coming back and their families, and we welcome any further conversations we can have there. Also hearing the work that Richard's talking about with Defence SA, and we've been working really closely with them throughout this whole process. And Lot 14 have a landing pad. We also have one here in Port Adelaide Enfield, looking at ways that we can actually support those small businesses to develop the communities, the network they need before they can just launch off and really thrive on their own. We have a strong commitment here with the significant investment that's been made with our economic development team. So we go out and work personally with businesses, introduce them to the area, look at ways that we can connect them with one another. So as soon as people contact us and our economic development team, we're absolutely there to help support and make this highly successful, to find ways that we can not only support the businesses who come to us, but also that long-term vision for the defence region. We also work alongside ICN, the ANI, the Australian Naval Infrastructure, of course, Naval Group, and looking at other ways that we can support. So we're all ears of and welcome any feedback people can provide for us as ways that we can continue to support businesses, individuals, families, create community, because really the heart of a lot of this work is for our future, and we need to look after those people who are involved. So that's a high priority for us. We're really excited about the construction that's happening here with the submarine work, and believe that there's some really great opportunities of further collaboration with Cherbourg, and looking at ways that we can really build that civic relationship for years to come.
Okay, thank you. And what do you think, John? What do you think about that, about this fabulous driver?
Well, if I may, I think the government's decision to build the submarines in South Australia was a tremendous vote of confidence in the state's ability to undertake such programs. And indeed, just to pick up on some of the points from Claire, we have already a team of engineers in France working with our French teammates, picking up technical skills. Ultimately, we'll have over 100 engineers in France working with the team there, who will come back to Australia, and they will also be accompanied by some teammates from France. So relationships which we're building now, particularly within Cherbourg and Adelaide, are lifelong relationships, mateship, if you will, on the submarine program. And to Claire's point, the creation of that cultural web between the French submarine community and the Australian submarine community is very important. And I'm also pleased to say that we already have regional agreements with Brittany in place between South Australia, and we've now got a bilingual education system into the schooling system in Adelaide as well. So that connection is becoming very, very tight. So over and above the technical and the programmatic issues associated with the submarine program, we are building relationships which are going to be enduring for the submarine, which is great.
Okay, thank you. We hear from guys representative on the prime, but I'm sure that many small businesses and entrepreneurs are looking now. What could be your message to them? How could you help them? Could you?
So I think in working with many entrepreneurs and small to mid-sized enterprises over decades, I think just be courageous, just ask, seek help. There's lots of help, both from government, from the program, from government at all levels. Be adventurous, think differently, and think about competing on a global stage. Think big. Would be my message to them. Those that I've seen been successful on technology transfer programs, they'd be the characteristics that I see. And innovate for the future. Be progressive in what you want to achieve, in both how you manufacture, how you design, how you service. Digital capabilities are the trades of tomorrow, no matter what you do. And I think that's a fundamental flaw to being involved in something that's going to be here for half a century.
Thank you, guys. And what do you think, Richard?
Well, can I just pick up on what Gareth just said about digital technologies? Absolutely crucial. And one other area that the state government, Naval Group and everybody else is putting a lot of effort into is making sure that that is a secure supply chain. And we have a lot more to do in that area, and we'll be doing a lot more. Everybody understands the unsophisticated cyber threats these days. It's the more sophisticated ones that we need to deal with on a submarine program. So that's critically important. Can I just finish with an advert for South Australia, which is totally different to what we've just been talking about. 2 weeks ago, we had an hour where we were 100% powered by renewable energy, and we were a net exporter of power. That is a transformation in less than 10 years that is quite unbelievable. 10 years ago, I mean, Gareth would perhaps be able to correct me on that, but I think pretty much we're all coal powered with a couple of gas boosters, and that was basically it. So in less than 10 years, we moved to that point. You know, it's a long journey to go still, but we're well down the road to having a fully renewable economy, and we probably will be there by the late 2020s.
Okay, thank you. I think a key point also could be the submarines, because we are dealing with a program for decades, and the issue is to maintain the capability and to also to foresee the evolution of the capabilities. And as you are saying, the innovation will be a key point. What is your point of view, John? Could you explain what Naval Group are doing with the suppliers, with Defense SA, with the Commonwealth about that in order to prepare the future and to maintain the capability in time?
Absolutely. So to pick it up on a point which Gareth made, which was very good, for the supply chain, the future submarine program is a strategic opportunity. It's something which has got a long life to it, and over that life, there is an assured program of work which is present, and there is opportunity to take the knowledge and skills into adjacent markets to further exploit. The thing which Naval Group is very focused on is understanding the existing capability of Australian industry and helping them to plan the journey to upskill and up technology to enable them to be able to contribute to the program in an effective manner. Now, part of that is, as I described earlier, about investment, be that through skills or be that through financial mechanisms. But it's also about the connection into this network, which I was previously describing. We live as a community, we are an ecosystem, and having that ecosystem around us provides the opportunity to bring together different organizations to produce superior outcomes to the benefit of all. And that's a very key part of our activity to support industry, making those relationships and joining the skills and the knowledge from Europe to Australia and Australia to Australia.
Okay, and Richard, are you able to help John for that in order to try to help the connection between or inside South Australia, of course, with Europe perhaps, but also with other states of Australia, because I think that the future submarine program could interest also other states of Australia?
So I think so to support that, we're really lucky that we have a representative of GICAN, which is the French Maritime Industrial Association, I guess, who is actually resident in my offices and provides one thing. Clearly, he's fluent in French and provides a brilliant conduit for our businesses to talk to French businesses and understand, you know, not just the language, but the nuancing that goes behind that, and to building those relationships. That's crucial, and that has been tremendously beneficial to us. Across, one thing that COVID has done is that it's actually brought the states and territories closer together in the defence sector. It's quite interesting. Every couple of weeks, there's a meeting where we all come together and we have a virtual meeting with the Minister of Defence Industries, and she talks through what's happening at a national level. And it was kicked off with COVID, but it's evolved into something else. It's evolved into discussions about the whole of the landscape, about the national skilling challenges that we face and how we can work together to solve that as a national level. Because the reality is there is a tremendous amount of business opportunity here, as John has been outlining. We don't need to fight over that. We've got more than enough opportunity. What we actually need to do is focus on delivering the capabilities and the capacity to capture those opportunities. And that collaboration, cooperation is much better than it has ever been before.
Thank you, Richard. So perhaps I will give the floor to Mayor Bowen. Claire, we started with you in order to introduce this roundtable. Now at the end of this roundtable, what do you think? I would like to invite you to share with us your main remarks and conclusion following this fascinating discussion, to provide a strategic dimension coming from a mayor of Port Adelaide.
Yeah, look, I'm just really excited about the future of the project of defence in Australia, and absolutely here in Port Adelaide and Osborne. The work that's progressing so fast, the positive announcements that are coming through, which are supporting our local industry, are creating an amazing buzz around the place. I actually went on a trip to Cherbourg last year, and it was a terrific opportunity to see some of the growth that we have in terms of our relationship with the community there, as well as seeing the reasoning behind some of the defence work and why it's being positioned right here in Port Adelaide. We have such a great location, great opportunity, great sense of history and community already here, and we're really excited about the continued growth of this space. So thank you to everyone who's choosing to invest in our area, and for those who are looking to move into the area, we welcome you, and we'd really love for you to be part of this community.
Thank you. Once again, I wish to thank all the speakers for the time we have spent to prepare this conference and for the richness of your exchanges. The title of this conference use transformed is the past tense, how FSP transform our cities in Australia. But according to me, the title should be is transforming, because everything is happening and now and for many years to come. Thank you again. And now the Q&A session could start. Join us now. Thank you.